ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. That's quite a mouthful. It more commonly goes by the name of Lou Gehrig's disease, at least in the US, based on Lou Gehrig, the famous baseball player. But what it essentially is a neurodegenerative disease in which a certain type of neuron or nerve cell dies. And it's really the motor nerve cells or the motor neurons that are sick and degenerate and die in ALS. And the result is progressive muscle weakness, affecting the limbs, affecting the breathing muscles, the chewing muscles, the talking muscles. And so that progressive weakness leads to the manifestations or the symptoms of the disease.
Hi, my name's Tim, and I'm living with ALS. My mom was the youngest kid in her family. I believe she was 32. My sister and I were living with her in Maine. When she was diagnosed, I want to say that was summer to fall '81. Back in those days, no one really knew anything about it, or there was no, association like there is today. There was no drug of any sort. Not that there's a whole lot these days, but she died in January of 1982. So, I mean, not even a year after diagnosis. My grandmother started feeling symptoms almost immediately following Mom's death, and the doctors were saying, no, this is just sympathetic pains. And she said, no, I know what's going on. And she was diagnosed shortly afterwards and died that December. Because ALS is so rarely familial, it's only 5, maybe 10% of all cases of ALS. Because it's not known as a hereditary disease, it was very strange. And then they started looking back through the history of the family. I don't know really names. There's a great-grandmother that had symptoms that were very similar to, and then it goes back to an obituary I've seen of, I think, my great-great or my great-great-great-grandfather named Harrison Gilmore, who was the mayor of Utica, New York, who died in 1902. And I read the obituary, and it's pretty much, it just, says this started feeling, had paralysis, and that spread through his body, and that his mind was clear until yesterday, and which is pretty much, word for word how it goes. So it looks like even before Lou Gehrig kind of coined the disease and popularized the term, it was in our family.
There are only 30,000 people with the disease in the US. 10% of that's familial. So that's 3,000 people who've got familial ALS. 20% of that is due to a mutation in the SOD1 gene. So what's that? 600 people. And only 50% of those people have got mutations that make them eligible for this trial.
My rarity, I guess, makes me research gold or something. There's a lot of studies open for SOD1 that aren't open for other people. It was funny. I was hoping to get into studies, so when I got the call that I actually was SOD1, I was like, woo! I thought I'd never be happy to have a genetic mutation. Of course, that really that excitement went away when I realized that it was not really the best form to have.
We've now started a treatment trial in people who've got familial ALS, and particularly people who've got familial ALS due to a specific gene mutation in what's known as the SOD1 or the superoxide dismutase 1 gene. And we've picked that patient population because they're very homogeneous, so all very much alike in the sense that we know the cause in everybody. We know the course of the disease is fairly uniform and quickly progressive.
There's different mutations of the SOD1 gene. Mine is known as A4V. Fuck knows what that means, except for that it's known as one of the most vicious forms of ALS that they know of, and it very swiftly took all other family members that had it.
So we have a challenge if we want to run this trial and get enough people into it to answer this question and to determine whether this drug is effective. And so we have many colleagues in many centers around the country who are aware of the study that we're doing. And so one of these colleagues spoke to Tim about this study and said, Tim, you know, my colleagues at Emory are running this trial, would you be interested in this? And he said, well, I'd certainly like to learn more. He was eligible for the trial, he was interested, he wanted to get involved in a clinical trial. You know, everybody's got different motivations for why, and Tim will have to answer that question for you. I wouldn't want to speak for him.
To be honest, there's so few of us that I kind of think it's the duty of anyone that's SOD1 positive to join a study. I feel like they learn a lot from us, and since there's so few of us that, you know, we really have an obligation, both, I mean, to ourselves and to the wider ALS community, but really to our families, to let them learn as much as they can about it so that we're not, you know, so that we can get closer to finding a way of stopping it so no one else in the family has to suffer from it as well.
So the next stage, at least in terms of the trial, is to hopefully remain in the trial for as long as he can. The trial runs for up to 12 months. What we hope to see is that it slows down the disease or even reverses the disease. We won't know until we see him in the trial for longer. What we do know is that this disease, untreated, is pretty rapidly progressive. The median survival is 12 months. What that means is that half the people with this disease don't survive beyond 12 months. So we don't know what the future holds for Tim because there's a lot of variability.
I'm about 2 months away from my diagnosis birthday. So, I mean, that's going to be 12 months. I can't imagine that things are going to take such a dive in the next 2 months that it's all over. I still feel like I've got quite a bit of energy.
He's sort of not being slowed down by the disease. You know, his intent is to keep doing everything that he's been doing and more.
Do I plan on letting this disease beat me? No. I mean, will I die from it? I don't know. I like to think that if I do end up dying, I'm not dying from the disease. I'm dying because I'm ready to go. One way or another, this thing is not going to win.
Well, I'll die trying, I'll never give up. Even when the odds are down, when no one gives a fuck. And even when pigs are flying, hell is frozen up. Well, I'll die trying, I'll never give up. And I know it's hard to love someone whose head is in the stars, but don't give up, hold on soon, until I've kept my promise and have given you the moon.